Okay, Gary, we should be good.
And we do expect any second now that Nick will join us.
Okay.
We're good to go.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Oswego County Industrial Development Agency meeting of June 24th, 2021. And before we begin, we have some guests at our meeting today, and I'd like to have everybody introduce themselves. So I think what we'll do before we introduce the board, we'll start with our guests, and we'll start with you.
Yep. So good morning, everyone. Jeff Cruz, plant manager here for Novelis and Oswego.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Thank you. Now we'll go to our guests on Zoom, please.
This is Amanda Fitzgerald from Barclay Damon here as Special Agency Counsel.
Good morning, Amanda.
And good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invite. John Tillman, the General Counsel for Novelis North America.
Good morning, John. Thank you.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Todd Gertz, Director of Engineering for Novelis North America.
Hey, Todd. Good morning. Thank you. And now we'll go around the room and introduce the board members. I think we'll start with our CEO, Michael.
Mike Treadwell, CEO of the IDA.
Glenn Schick, Secretary, IDA.
Gary Trimble, board member.
Tim Stahl, board member.
Gary Toth, Chairman.
Kevin Caracoli, General Counsel to the IDA.
And we have some of our staff here.
Lisa Wilson, Staff Operations, Oswego County.
Austin Wheelock, Staff Operations, Oswego County.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, welcome to our meeting, and thank you for attending. We're going to go through a few orders of business before we get into Novelis. So, meeting, and thank you for 2021. Before we begin, did everybody get these on the portal?
Yes.
Everybody, it was a portal fine as far as using it instead of mail? Great. Okay, so everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Can I have a motion? And a
I'll
second?
make a motion.
Motion by Tim, seconded by
I'll second.
Barry, to accept the minutes. Is there any additions, errors, or corrections? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are carried. Okay, the notice of the meeting was in the Palladium Times on June 5th, 2021. Treasurer's report, you should have received those in the portal as well. Does everybody have a chance to review the Treasurer's report? Okay, can I have a motion and a second on the Treasurer's report?
I'll move it.
Okay, motion by Len,
I'll second.
second by Tim. Motion and a second to accept the Treasurer's report. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, Treasurer's report is carried. At this time, I'd like to go into executive session. We have some guests here, and what I'd like to do is have Kevin, our legal counsel, Kevin Caracoli, explain the reason we're going into executive session, please.
Sure. For pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, it's to discuss the financial history of a particular corporation. In this case, the law allows for discussion of financial or employment history of individuals or corporations. In this case, it's a corporation.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Okay, so can I get a motion to go into executive session, please?
I'll move it.
Okay, motion by Barry, seconded by Tim.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at this time, what time was it, Len?
9:13.
9:13. At this time, we'll enter into executive session.
On tape in a moment.
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to come out of executive session at what time, Lynn?
10:05.
10:05. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we've come out of executive session. Okay, next is Leland Trade and Radiator Services. We have a, yes, who's gonna speak on it?
All right. We're good. Okay.
Is this the same deal we talked about last month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert, welcome back.
Yes.
You remember the IDA
morning.
board? Maybe
Good
we
morning, Robert.
do a quick introduction. Thank you for waiting. We had another matter we had to cover in executive session. So. And
Robert, would you have a seat right here?
Oh, right here?
Yep, okay, cool.
I'll remind Robert will tell us about his project again, but he did come to the last meeting and give us an overview of his company's history in East Syracuse with his father, working in cars, doing different things, and now in a kind of global auto parts business, really. So I'll leave it to you to fill in.
Okay, yeah, so over the last, so we're a 40-year-old company. We started in 1980.
I just want to tell you, we are live on the internet, so whatever you say is public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm.
We started in 1980. We grew, and then we declined a little bit, and we did an acquisition, mom in 2014. And at that time, we only had 7 employees. It was me, my mom, my brother, and one guy was full-time, and we had 3 part-time, so we only had 7 people. Now we're roughly around 20-some people. We're efficiently. We actually last 6 years we've invested a lot in infrastructure. We have a very good network of online retailers and regular hard parts distributor. Our online retailers have been growing astronomically. They do more. We right now probably do more business in 1 month than we did all year 10 years ago. So we've been growing steadily, and we would hope to. And we found the Miller facility at that time. Actually, was looking at the Repelli. That one was available, and that would be a great facility for us to grow and expand. And we'll probably use like 100 to 200,000 to start, but we'll probably use the remaining portion depending on what the banks are saying. But we hope to utilize that whole facility and hire hundreds of people. But right now, I know our applications around 50, but I think we have the potential eventually to grow into a facility, maybe do some high-end manufacturing or back into what we used to be able to do, repairing and manufacturing at the facility, from auto parts to possibly sporting goods. We have a big network, global network of suppliers and customers for that all over the world. We do service, actually all our parts go all over the world. It goes back to Japan, Italy. We have distributors in Estonia. We got distributors in Poland. Our parts end up in Turkey and stuff like that. So our parts do end up all over the world. We actually have very good work culture. We have awesome health benefits. We use Axelis, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Platinum 2. All our employees that qualify love our program. We do our best. We gave our employee an option: should we work on our 401k or pension plan, or should we acquire a larger facility? Everybody's like, let's do the larger facility. We can work on the retirement later. So we're putting all our cash right now on into this facility. This facility, I think we had quoted out for the local engineering firm. It's $30 million to rehab properly, and another looks like used to be $4 or $5 million for a roof. Now I think it's $6 to $8 million because of the material cost increase. So that screwed up our budget a little bit on this project, but we're trying to make it work. So we had to cut less scope of the work.
Or you're re-roofing it all, or only a portion of the building, because some of it seems to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, so originally I wanted to remove the whole thing. Budget wise, we can't do it anymore. We're just doing the really bad portions. So unfortunately, material costs, and you got to work with what you have. So, and hopefully we can make enough money to continue to rehab it every year or every few months. We make money. Like that's what we've been doing in the last 6 years. Even if we didn't have money, we reinvested back into our business, whether forklift or new computer system, upgrading our software. We spent over like almost $1 million on just on our software alone on upgrades and fees and stuff like that. So whatever we do, we always reinvest back into our business. Pretty much, first time we have some down payment for this facility, and it'll be the same thing. We'll have nothing in our bank account, but we reinvest everything back into our business. We like to invest back into our community and our employees. If you go in and ask our employees, they'll be like, "I love this place. The culture is good." This is the first place that actually the owners actually care. They take great care of us. So I like to continue that culture with this facility once we get in there. So when they go home, they're not only like they're tired, but they're not mentally tired too. They're so it's much easier life after work because you're at work most of your life. So we hope we can instill that in our culture of our employees also long term. And I think when we did the acquisition at the time, minimum wage was at $9 an hour. So I've been slowly increasing our minimum wage. Right now we're at 14. Next year we plan to increase our minimum wage to 15, and then next year I'd like to do it to 16 until we get up to 20. So eventually, even though our project says a certain dollar amount, my goal is to make sure as long as we can afford it, to continuously increase our minimum wage for our facility for everybody, including a janitor. The janitors start at $14 or $15 an hour now. They don't start at minimum wage. So we want to make sure everybody has living wage. We also work with the local adults with disability. We've had multiple employees that they bus in and they come in for a few hours, or sometimes the parents don't want them there, but it's okay. But our facility also works with a lot of the local adults with disability.
You've been dealing with Oswego Industries?
Not yet. We're in Onondaga County, so we've been I think we've already worked with 4 organizations to help adults with disability get some jobs and on their feet, and work out pretty good. So yeah, that's a little bit of what we kind of do, and hopefully we can get in there and do decent things and use the facility, hire more people, create jobs. I'm very interested also making sure that that facility is environmentally friendly as possible. We do have plans on doing geothermal HVAC in there, and we do probably try to work with like a solar guy or solar company, and possibly use some wind on the roof. So I've been up there, so much wind, so maybe we could do all that, try to get that all situated so it's more green. So and I like to do it nice, so it's good for everybody, environmentally and everything else.
So,
Sounds great.
Robert, you tell us about the tenants in the building.
Okay,
you have
so
two tenants.
Currently, there's 2 tenants. One in the back, I think it's 0911. One Patterson next door. They've been there for at least 10 years. We hope they could stay on until we use the whole facility. We are doing, we have been working with Center State CEO in Central New York, and they have multiple large tenants that possibly might go into that facility. But it's also contingent on that we use the large national bank or the regional bank. The large national bank won't really let us rent out more than 49% of it, but the smaller regional will let us rent out whatever we need. But we currently do need about 100 to 200,000 square foot. That facility is actually 900,000 square foot with the offices. So we would, rent out a good portion of to large national companies that they have multiple that needs over 100,000 square foot. That would also create a lot of good paying jobs from manufacturing to distribution, from what I would understand there. I think one of them had over 100 or a couple hundred good manufacturing jobs. So, but I'm not sure. Everything has to be, that place has to be fixed up. There's a lot, like I mentioned, over $38 million worth of repairs from one of the engineering firms that helped us quote it out, and we only have so much money. So we're working on it. We'll work on it little by little, and also with the Empire State Grant, hopefully we could get more money in there, and that would probably help with some of the HVAC and maybe fixing the. We will do it one step at a time, whatever we could afford.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for me?
Where are you in the process and what's your time frame?
We're pretty much, this is a big project, and it's our first project. We already got the construction, we know how much it costs. I'm just working on bank financing right now.
And Robert's work, I want to interject, Robert, sorry, you're working with VIP.
Yeah,
right?
I don't want to put names out. Yeah,
Oh, that's okay.
We're
Yeah.
working with VIP Structures. They're a great engineering firm. The banks are okay with them using it. Originally, I was going to do the project, but they said the dollar amount, they won't let me rehab it myself, because we have our own contractors that we normally use, and they're actually going to use all the contractors that we're using, but the bank's more comfortable using a company like VIP Structure to help rehab. So we're pretty close to, once we get a commitment letter from either is it Chase or Berkshire or Key, that will they said 60-90 days as long as environmentals are good. We already did a phase 1, Hancock and Estherbrook. We're using actually Hancock and Estherbrook for our attorneys. They already did a phase 1, and everything looked pretty clean. Just I think the only thing that returned is one of the next door. There was a little environmental issues next door that popped up. Other than that,
You're talking about the Rosella building?
yes.
Okay.
So other than that, they said other than that there should be no issues. But I think the SBA may have a little issue because of the one next door. So maybe that conventional with Berkshire might work
But
out
you're
better.
not buying that property. It's
No,
just
we're not buying
adjacent,
that.
to
Our attorney recommended us not to purchase that either. So, yeah, we're actually just doing the old Miller facility. So we finally got VIP to a budget that the banks are comfortable with. So it's a little reduced scope of work like the roof, but once hopefully we could get in there, make a little bit more money, hire more people, and rehab it more, and slowly grow into the facility. And hopefully we would love to use the whole facility, and I'd love to hire hundreds of people. Like my job, I do 10 things I need to section off for us to grow into what we need to do in the future. So
And the status of the purchase offer I know was extended.
yes, up to yes. We're just working until the bank gives us a green light. we're just waiting for the commitment letter. So we've been going back and forth with VIP structures, construction costs, how much, you know. And then I think Berkshire's working with Center State CEO and trying to help us get in there. We would prefer doing the conventional, but you know, we'll take whatever things they'll give us. We just want to get in there so we can grow and hire more people.
You mentioned SBA. Is there an SBA component to this?
So if we use Chase, they only will do a 504 with us. So that would be a SBA 504 loan that we would do with Chase. Berkshire is more open to using a conventional loan, and they'll let us have more tenants in that facility, whereas we will be required to occupy 51% of that facility if we use Chase.
That's an SBA requirement.
Yeah, that's an SBA 51%. It's usually for, I mean, we will eventually use the whole facility, but it just has to take in phases and stuff like that. I'd like to eventually. Our customer base is, we have 2-3 really large customers, and we have 4 or 5 national retailers that is waiting for us to move into a larger facility so we could service them. I think one of the national online retailers would love to have us into a larger, so they could probably do 10 or 20 times more for our distribution wise.
And the existing tenants are currently using what, about 200, 300?
Yeah, about 270, 200, about 30% of the facility.
So back to Len's question about timeline, what Robert, I mean, kind of your best guess, how do the months or quarters
So,
look? You know, you're in June now, you're halfway through this year.
I would say we're hoping for originally it was going to be a end of June or July closing. I think once we get a commitment letter, the bank says about 90 days. So we're pretty close, and we finalized the budget just recently, so probably like September. And October would be the latest, I would think.
And then start work right away.
I would actually start work right away. We need to get the roof up there. It's leaking really badly, and that roof. Once we get the roof in there, we would update the lights, get the HVAC in. We'll do the geothermal, and then possibly do some natural gas for the remaining of the portion. Whatever we could afford, I guess. We'll just do it in phases, and we'll probably have to eventually fix the floor because there's a lot of cracks from the roof leaking.
What sequence will the southern end of the building, not that's the ethanol facility, but the office space? Because I've been through that office space.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty scary.
It is very scary. That's probably going to be a little bit later. We're gonna probably bulldoze that eventually and try to clean that all out, and then we like to put that into I like to do 3D scanning and high-end manufacturing for printing for products, and we also would like to use that facility to do pictures and do a huge 3D camera, so all our products that we do, and I like to have multiple because we have literally thousands of products, and even some of the manufacturers that we bring in, they don't have the pictures. I like to do like 2, 3, 4 big rooms in there and do 3D cameras and scanners of the product. Not only competitors, also ours, so we could display, because today everybody is doing online sales, so the more detail that you have is better. I mean, we have one person dedicated just to take pictures of products right now, and I think I would like to expand that to also scanning and printing out products in the future. So there'll be hopefully a lot more high-end jobs and higher salaries.
Creates virtual shopping.
Yes,
you
virtual.
literally
Yes.
Go over to the shelf and pull out.
Well,
what
yeah,
you want,
you could just print it right out at that facility. It just takes a lot of electricity, so I'm still researching into what would help with electricity, either, solar or wind or something else, or like we use the geothermal for the heat and stuff like that, so.
Now, what about your Onondaga County facility over in Syracuse?
Okay, so since that facility, the office is in such a bad shape, we still need to operate out of the East Syracuse facility that we're currently in. We do plan to eventually move everything there, but it depends on how long it takes us to fix that office, and how much money. We were quoted, I think so, out of that 30 million, I think $16 million was to rehab that office properly. So we don't have that. So it's gonna take some time for us to get there. We'll do our best, whatever we have. So I'll also plan to hire a team to clean that up too. So that'll be part of our hiring process.
So with this right here, this is obviously your first phase. It's to retain your client, the people who are currently in the facility.
Yes.
Keep them, as clients and renters. And then, what would you be doing on your footprint immediately once everything's in line?
Okay, so the warehouse will probably go online first. We'll put stations. Hopefully, we'll be able to afford some racking. We'll have a computer station. We'll have rollers. It'll be pretty similar like an online retailer. We're set up pretty much similar to that. So everything will be pretty much picked and pulled and processed. That hopefully we can clean up the office, get into the office area. I think realistically it's gonna take over 5 to 10, 15. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but whatever we can afford to get in there, and then hopefully we could do some manufacturing into. I don't know. We'll look at. Depends on how much money we have, and if we have the money, we'll do it. If we don't, I guess it's just all about cash flow. If we have cash flow, I'll give our employees options like, hey, this is the opportunity. You want to manufacture this, or it's better. I need to make sure all our employees are all in agreement. If it's not, we usually kill the project. It's better that way, so the project moves along a lot smoother. If people are not with it, you'll never make you'll lose money. And like I mentioned before, I rarely look at ROI, which I should, but it's better if you just do it right from the beginning. The ROI eventually will happen.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or anything for Robert?
So just to confirm, the phase one project is looking at 100 to 200,000 square foot that you would utilize. You would keep the existing tenants in place, which are a little less than 300,000, and you would be looking to bring in other tenants for the remaining 300 to 400,000 square foot on a short-term basis until you can fill the facility.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That would be our best case scenario.
Now, we are required, in cases in which a business relocates, to notify the chief executive officer of the municipality that is leaving in the county, in the town, and that notification has been sent to the mayors and the county executive.
Okay.
But all those employees will still have jobs.
Oh yeah, everybody. Yeah, all those.
Some of them may have to drive a little bit further. Some of them may be
Yes.
closer to this facility.
Yes. So yeah, eventually will be moved. Everything will be, but it just depends on how fast we clean up that facility and how much we would allocate into the business or rehabbing the facility. Just you got to figure out what do you have to do first.
Okay. Anybody else have any?
Well, I think we should talk a little bit about the pilot structure that Robert has requested, and he's given a good background on the scope of this project and the challenges in affording it, and therefore he's requested a deviation. It's summarized on the cost benefit analysis, but especially in the impact point Number 5, average payment of 132 over the 20 years versus estimated normal tax of 331. If we just take a step back before we jump to that, the challenge on this building, what we always have to do is try to estimate what a property, real estate will be worth after the project is completed, and we're not assessors, so we try to stick our finger in the air and figure that out from some experience. It's challenging on this project because you could have a debate of whether will fixing the roof increase the assessment or not, and has the assessor already somehow degraded this building because of the condition of the roof? We don't know. Those kinds of other issues like putting in lights and other things interior won't necessarily impact the assessment. So, but the current status with that building is it's assessed at 2.8 million, believe it or not, given its condition. With the current tax rate, current assessment and current combined tax rate of the taxing authorities, normal tax is 116 per year, roughly speaking, round figures. The pilot payment is that Robert has requested is $100,000 in year 1, 115 for the 5 years following that. So normal tax is 116, and just use round figures. He's requested $100K in year 1, 115 in years 2 through 6, and then onward every 2 years a 5% increase to continue to step it up. So Robert's looking for, in my words, a little relief in the first year from current tax, steady of the current tax for the following 6 years. 5 years, sorry, thank you, through year 6, and then years 7 through 20 would be stepping up 5% every 2 years. Where in the past, some projects, we use a 2% escalator, this sort of mimics that by doing 5% every 2 years, which gives Robert a steady tax figure for the first 6 years of the project, basically, steady and low,
Hopefully
and
we
starts to step
make
up.
money by that time and get that place up and
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
much as we can, I guess.
Kevin, I just want to add as well, if anyone doesn't see me on the thing, this is Austin speaking. The taxes on that facility recently went to 2.8. It was before that, I believe it was 1.5 million, and then about 2 years ago, I believe the assessed value on that changed. So it was assessed at 1.5 million for a long time. I'm not sure what necessitated the increase in assessed value. I don't think there was any investment in the facility per se that changed that. Maybe they did it based on an income basis because of the tenants or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but it was, like I said, it was assessed at 1.5 million for a long time, I believe, from when the current owners bought it until a couple years ago. So 2.8 is a relatively new number in terms of assessed value.
And honestly, I'm on that same site right now, and for some reason, the assessor has it pegged for an increase this year coming up. Find it.
It's a new assessor as well.
It's up to 3 million.
Now, were they 100% assessment before, or did they
Yeah, I don't know
reevaluate?
that they never had a pilot through us.
No, I mean as far as the town.
Yeah, so just before I answer that, the tentative assessment that'll go into effect July 1st for 2021 is $3,027,027. Kind of an odd amount, but no, I'm sorry, that's the full assessment. The tentative assessment is actually, well, it's actually going, it's going to stay at 2.8. So, there you go.
Yeah, so it's full market value versus total assessed value.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the wrong category. To answer your question,
It doesn't make any sense because the building's been deteriorating. and
right.
not-
Yeah.
And the roof is
So-
getting worse and
yeah.
worse, so it's like
Yeah.
huge holes, like
The
when
only-
you were up there, it was like very dangerous to actually stand
What's
up
the
there.
actual purchase price of the property right now? I mean, you got 5 million property acquisition.
5
million. So we're saying the assessment at 3 is low. He's paying 5.
It's a 94% equalization rate too, so it's.
But yes.
Yeah, so what the proposed pilot structure is saying is that in essence, for years 2 through 6, it would stay at pretty much what the taxes currently are based on a normal tax on the 2.8 million, and then from there it would go up by 5% every 2 years.
I'm
So
wondering whether or not that adjustment because Sunoco acquired a portion of that property about 3 or 4 years ago, and they probably paid a premium to buy the entrance, the little guardhouse, and some other space from the Denny's. And I sneaking suspicion Sunoco paid pretty much probably top dollar for that, and that may have influenced that decision on increasing the assessment.
Yeah, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the records on this particular property only go back online at least to 2017, and at least since then it's been 2.8. So can't say for certain.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or?
I should say that we did hold a public hearing as per required, and the superintendent of Fulton City School District attended, Brian Polvino, and he asked questions about the project. Generally was just trying to understand what might be going on out there at that facility. Was supportive of development in that area, didn't have any particular comments I would say about our proposed pilot structure, but more or less joined to learn more about what might be going on with us with that property, and of course Robert and Mike and I attended, but no other feedback's been received by.
No other pushback from anything?
No, we did the letters, of course, to the school district and town and county, yeah. Of course, we know there's another business next door that's beyond struggling, so we weren't sure what the town or the county might view another pilot down there, but we haven't heard any comments.
If I could ask, kind of following up on Nick's point though, at any point in any of those discussions, was the purchase price discussed? I would assume it wasn't. The only reason I ask is because.
No, we don't discuss that outside of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that will become public record, and then
Yeah.
a pilot based on, essentially 40% of the purchase price. I guess is just part of the question.
Okay, any other comments? Questions? Okay, so I guess we'll start taking motions on the resolutions. First one is the inducement resolution for Leland Trade. I have a motion on the inducement resolution.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Nick, seconded by Len Schick. Motion by Nick Finale, seconded by Len Schick. On the inducement resolution, are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the resolution is carried. The pilot resolution, do I have a motion on the pilot resolution?
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you, Len. Do I have a second? Motion by Len Schick, seconded by Tim Stahl on the pilot resolution. Any questions or comments? All those in favor on the pilot resolution?
Aye.
Any opposed? Pilot resolution is carried. Okay, the final approving resolution. Can I have a motion on the approving resolution?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Barry Trimble, seconded by Tim Stahl. On the final approving resolution, any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried.
Robert, in terms of the pilot and the authorization to enter into a pilot project under those terms, what impact does that have with you in terms of your banks?
That's gonna help us out a lot, because this is a very big project.
Next Thursday.
It's a lot of dollars, and,
I'll be in touch.
Alright. Thanks, guys.
more than,
Well, I expected that answer, but I just.
I mean, we're in a 38,000 square foot facility, we're small, we're a
Maybe we
really
should still
small
board that.
company, and I think this will help our growth, and we have the right people in place now, so hopefully everything goes smoothly and we close on it, and like everything else, when running the business last 6-7 years, there's huge bumps in the road from employees. Something always happens that we just have to figure it out. So we're just taking it one day at a time, and we just do our best. That's all we can do. Is there's nothing you can do. You just do your best every day.
But I just wanted to say that I mean, as long as I've been here since 2006, that facility, the Miller facility, has been a vacant or vastly underutilized facility, and this is the furthest I've ever seen anything ever go. And someone, really try to move mountains to try to make this happen. So
yeah, we're doing the best we can to make sure everything goes smoothly from VIP engineering. They came down a lot on their fees too. They're, everybody's been working.
Well, and like I said, I just want to say that with a facility that size, it's very difficult to try to make a project happen. There's just so few people out there that need something that size. So I think the way that Robert's doing it, obviously he's using a smaller portion of the facility and looking to try to figure out how to create cash flow on the facility in the short term while growing into it. I think that's really, there's just not many people out there that need 900,000 square foot.
And VIP structure is actually not rehabbing a lot. We're gonna probably clean. Our people's gonna go in there, replace the bathroom fixture, fix the clean up the thing and stuff like that. My guys are gonna do a lot of that. Try to fix, just simple stuff. Fix the doors, the doorknobs, and stuff like that. My guys will probably do that, or teams of guys and girls.
And to that point, just so we're very clear, usually we do a seeker resolution, but there was a determination made by our special counsel in reviewing the project that this actually falls under a type 2 action, which under the seeker regulations, a type 2 action does not require any type of further environmental review. So that the approving resolution references the type 2 action. I just wanted that to be clear. Because we typically do. If this was a new project, a new build, then it would have been, frankly, it would have been probably a type 1 action. Right. But the town would have been involved in the planning process and all the rest of it. This is just rehabilitation of existing facilities. It qualifies as a type 2.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, I wondered why there was no seeker, but yeah, thanks.
It's all within the footprint of the existing building.
Is that true with demolition too? If there's gonna be demolition of part, that's
Yeah, generally demoing any property is considered a type 2. I mean, there might be asbestos issues, but that's separate and apart from the seeker process.
Yeah, I mean, our people are all on board. If they weren't on board, I could never do this.
Yeah, great.
All right, I'm all set.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Very
Nice
much.
to meet you guys.
Pleasure meeting you again.
Thank you.
So Robert, congrats. So everything's approved.
All right, thank you.
It will take us a few days to get these resolutions.
And I still need a little bit more time to base.
Yeah, but if you need me, just slow roll, congratulate you on your approval, something you're gonna force.
If you can do that, and then with the whole
Just a
thing.
simple paragraph, and then later on in a few days.
Oh, I would
I'll
love to
send
send
all
that
those
case, yeah, then we can.
I'll just write something up during
Awesome. All right, thank you. All right, thank you, appreciate it, thank you. Working on it.
Trying to move as quickly as possible.
He was supposed to.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so, number 6, Oswego LLC, Champlain Valley. That's Kevin.
Yes. Well,
Which Kevin?
yeah, I think, but.
We can tag team it.
I mean, we covered this at the last meeting. I don't know that we need to, I mean, we had a guest, Jeremy, came into the last meeting that we had at the Common Center, so I don't know that. This is, a business with many names. We know it internally as Champlain Valley Specialties, out in Secret 104 in the town of Oswego.
I haven't requested it back, I thought,
So the company, that we've gone through this history, went through a bankruptcy and the ownership changed. They've asked for the pilot, since we had awarded a pilot in 2020, that gave the company certain benefits for a project relating to the packaged wastewater treatment plant at the site. The company decided never to do that. Instead of doing that, they've made some arrangements for the city and will be purchasing, as my understanding, purchasing a tanker truck to keep both contract with the city and also using their own equipment and driver to keep the cost down of hauling the wastewater to the west side sewage treatment plant. So they never did the project. this, you know, kind of concurrent with that but unrelated, the owners declared bankruptcy, and kind of the new owners. Now there's another new owner called Stellex, or kind of ultimately called Stellex. The entity now in Oswego is CF Oswego LLC. And they plan to continue operating. Jeremy was in before. Jeremy is a member of the family who started from the Champlain Valley up in Keene, or that area, that came down and started this entity originally after the onion processing business was in that facility and went bad. So that's where we are. Anything to add to that?
No, I mean, fundamentally, it's an assignment and an assumption of the existing arrangement.
Yeah.
The pilot agreement doesn't change.
Right.
It's just one company taking over for another. The little trick is that it's in a bankruptcy proceeding, so but it's all been approved, but subject to our approval.
I thought we did last
But
meeting. I thought
there
we
is
approved
something
it.
about the pilot that we have to now approve. So we had at the first, what the company has done is, since that 2020 pilot really should be, is invalid, they're not doing the project. So what we've been working with the company on is backing off the benefits given by the 2020 pilot and reinstating basically the pilot schedules from the two earlier pilots from, we know them internally as the
After,
13 and
well,
21.
we did, but after discussing it, we did think that it was necessary to go forward with a public hearing and
What we did last
all
time
the
was
other
authorize
approvals.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Just
And
for
the-
place
and
on
the
now.
supervisor was fine with the
Yeah, although
construction.
I drove by last Sunday and it was completely empty, you know, no cars in the
But
parking
they are
lot.
operating.
Yeah, they have 109 jobs right now. At their peak, they were around 140 with the prior under Champlain Valley ownership. They hope that new team, some of the former Champlain Valley, some of the family members are back involved. They hope to bring employment back up to that 140, but 109 is well above whatever any commitments they'd ever made to us in the past. So by assigning the pilot, we also want to change the pilot schedules to put back the 2011 and 2013 pilots, basically, which would leave 12 years left on the schedule at 60% now, 60% abatement, 22 and 23, and then dropping to 50 for 2 years, 40 for 2 years, 30, 20, and 10 for these remaining 12 years. Because those two original pilots had 11 and 12 years left on them, respectively, and they were, at the time, they were on separate parcels. Fast forward to today, those parcels have been combined, so we basically merging those two pilot schedules together on one parcel to mimic what those two pilots on two separate parcels would have done. Had we never done the 2020
What
pilot.
happened is the Apple company bought the onion processing facility. That was step one. Step two, they bought the shippers and growers building located adjacent to that facility, which they really didn't do too much with. The Apple folks didn't do too much with that. They just owned it. And that's why we had two pilots.
So we're kind of, given where we are right now with agreements, like the leaseback structure that was put in place in 2020 would remain. That's what kind of Barclay Damon came up with. We'll just change that pilot schedule that's tied to all that straight lease transaction that we put in place in 2020. So almost like it never happened. They still paid for it. They paid our fees. They paid what legal costs to get that closed, but then never did the project. So and they never used the sales tax exemptions either that they were awarded with that 2020 pilot.
So this new company is people from the old company.
From the old
Old.
yeah, the original company,
Yeah.
the original family.
What is the name of the new company again?
It's CF. They're taking the Country Fresh because there is a brand and notoriety out there. So, but they didn't want to call themselves Country Fresh. They're calling themselves CF Oswego.
Okay.
LLC. But yeah.
All right. Okay, so Kevin, thank you very much for clearing that up for us.
Your motion?
Yeah, we need a motion
I'll
on
make a
the resolution approving the amendment to the project.
Yeah, there's
Motion
one
by Tim
resolution that
Stahl.
does the assignment and the amendment, excuse me.
What was that, Kevin?
One resolution that will both assign the project basically to the new owners and then also recast the pilot schedule like I was describing back to
Okay, thank you.
the prior.
And seconded by Len Schick. Is there any more questions or discussions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay. The solar farm, SSC Oswego, the resolution approving sale of membership interest.
That's, again, we've seen this before with these solar companies. There's almost like a company that, you know, goes to the local municipality, gets the approval, maybe even comes to the IDA, gets the benefits, and then they market it for, you know, financing, and the financing component of it requires a piece of the action, so to speak, so they create a new membership interest. And so that's what's happening here. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this was, that the original Summit Solar Capital, when they did the Scriba and Oswego, Town of Oswego project,
Looks
did the same thing. This is the city of Oswego, so Roman numeral 2, this is the one that's gonna be located out on, Route 63 Cocher Road.
Right,
So we've looked at it, it's, you know, the company's fundamentally going to be part of this, but there is the new membership interest. And so according to the pilot terms, they have to come to the agency to seek our consent and approval for that, which we generally freely give.
Yeah, and they're good with all the
It just-
terms and
it
conditions
just
of the pilot.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, it's just a different ownership structure.
Right, it's just, they're adding, members that weren't there before, but, so.
It just makes me nervous as to why, you know, I mean, why they, is there something gonna happen, you know, it just.
It's how, what I've come to learn about is, it's how this industry works. There's people like SSC, Kevin and I know the principal there. It's, they develop these projects. They work with planning boards, National Grid, IDAs, whatever is needed. Then they have a project like basically all approved and they sell it. And they get a fee. They get a fee for the developer's fee, basically. Hundreds of thousands, but, yeah, but it's, you know, some time, months of work. They first had to do the site, negotiate the lease with the landowner, check the, you know, while they're working National Grid, sometimes pay National Grid, you know, for their engineering, so, you know. So it's just how the game is played. This one, Kevin, did you say it's Goldman Sachs is the ultimate buyer here, the equity company, so buying up solar farms, so.
Okay.
You know, I mean, and I know it's public, but not for nothing, I would rather have Goldman Sachs as my partner than, you know, a solar development company.
Yeah,
right.
Which can be a little thin on the equity
Right.
and invested capital. Yeah.
Okay, so the motion on the resolution approving the sale of membership interests of SSC Oswego. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Yep.
Okay, motion by Gary Tull, seconded by Len Schick. Is there any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the resolution is carried. Okay, the other two could involve a little discussion. Barry says he's got to leave by 11:30.
Would be really nice.
So,
We'll kick those at the end.
yeah, I was gonna kick those at the end, go back into executive session because we have to take some action on some of those, when we come out. So, I guess I'll take a motion to go back
I'll
into
make
it.
that motion.
Okay, motion by Tim Stahl, do I have a second? Second by Gary Trimble, and Kevin, again, the reason we're going to executive session, please?
Further discussion of the financial employment history of certain individuals or corporations.
Okay, thank you. What time, Lynn?
10:53.
10:53. All those in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's carried.
Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so, a motion to come out of executive session, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, come out of executive session, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried. 11:31, thank you, Len. Okay, we have some items we have to address, we discussed. First, Novellis Corporation, the initial resolution. Do I have a motion on the initial resolution of Project Merlin?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Tim Stahl, seconded.
I'll second.
Seconded by Barry Trimble. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, the initial resolution for the infrastructure upgrade for Novellis.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Tim Stahl, seconded by Lynn Chick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Okay, the budget report of revenues expenses going to the ABO, we have authorization to file. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Tim Stahl, seconded by Lynn Schick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, moving right down, the Mother Earth Baby, the HUD EDF loan of $35,000. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Trimble, do I have a second? I'll second it. Carrie Toth, we have a motion and a second on Mother Earth Baby's loan of $35,000. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Hannah Shortsleff, the micro enterprise loan of $20,000 for Hannah's Creations. Do I have a motion to approve the loan?
I'll move it.
A motion by Len Schick, seconded by
Second.
Barry Trimble. Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? A motion carried. And lastly, the delinquent loan report that was just reviewed, May 31, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
A motion by Barry Trimble, seconded by Len Schick. Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, delinquent loan report is approved. That takes care of everything that we did in executive session, am I correct, Len?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see,
Eight.
8 and 9, okay. The update on the Oswego County Industrial Park expansion.
Well, very briefly, we haven't closed on it yet, but we're extremely close. I've been talking with the seller's attorney. We're getting the title work, proposed deeds, and the survey's done. And I mean, the closing's imminent. We haven't scheduled it, but it's gonna happen really any time now. As soon as we get the deeds, have a chance to review them, make sure it's all squared away. We're gonna be closing, if I had to guess, I'd say probably within the next 2 weeks.
Kevin, just wanted to state there were a couple issues that during the survey process that were identified. I don't know if we mentioned those at the last meeting. It's being worked out, but it was just stuff that was unknown.
Yeah.
That made the process take a little longer.
Just the fence line with the neighbor?
Not so much the fence line with the neighbor. The biggest issue was the fact that Harris Road actually is a through road. It actually goes from County Route 57 to County Route 6
Okay.
and cuts right through 481. It was never
Bulldozed down.
it was never abandoned formally.
Oh.
So it still exists. What we decided to do is acquire the property subject to the public right of way. And actually, the way that when we worked this out with the engineers, we had a preliminary survey. The engineers said, let's keep it for now because we might be able to incorporate portions of the actual road in the development of the campus. And if we have to seek abandonment, talk to the town. they're willing to do that. It's not going to be an issue. But practically speaking, I mean, you can't, it can't go anywhere.
Kind of shapes the road in.
Well, it's not even.
Yeah.
It ends at the,
It's
you know,
farming,
right after
farm
the,
fields after, right?
right after the railroad track, it just kind of turns into dirt, right? So,
It's kind of dirt on the other side.
well, it's kind of, right, exactly. So that was kind of the biggest
Sure.
surprise, if you will, and even then it wasn't really a deal breaker. in
But
any way.
it's there's a silver lining to that too, is that if we do want to make that a road into the site in the future, because it's already there in place, it's a lot easier to deal with CSX versus having to try to
Well,
get a crossing after it's been abandoned.
Yeah, yeah, so we're keeping Harris Road, a road at least past the railroad track.
It's worth the
Yeah, definitely.
the headache a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Have we contract or any kind of things with CNY Crops?
We haven't, only because, I mean, we don't own the, I've referred Fred and to,
Salt planted.
Stinziano and.
It's all, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I went by there the other day and I mean, the corn's up like.
Yeah, I mean, what
I
they
mean, once
should
we-
do is have an assigned, have a lease with the current owner and then assign it to us at closing is what they should do. But we
But
can't sign something we don't know.
If it doesn't happen, we will gladly enter into that agreement
Yeah.
with CNY Crops. I mean, I got the lease, but the problem is
Because my understanding, remember we had talked about having them do some other areas?
yeah,
And they didn't do that, to my knowledge, because he wasn't sure what was
well,
gonna happen, so he didn't do it.
yeah, and unfortunately, I did refer him to the current owners, but we can't.
Yeah, see,
But
yeah,
it's
it's
they-
hard because they don't normally pay until the end of the
Right.
year, until the end of the season anyways.
I thought that property owner didn't deal with them
Whitney,
previously.
Whitney, I think, is the guy.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Do you know it's CNY Crops that put the seed in the ground? I don't know that we know.
oh, it's all done.
Yeah, you see the growth.
The corn's there,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
But was it
looks
CNY
nice.
Crops, is my question, I understand there's corn there.
What is it?
Was it your friend at CNY Crops that planted that corn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they've
'Cause I'm not
they've
sure
done
we
that for years.
know that,
I mean,
yeah.
they've planted there for
Sure.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know for sure because we didn't give authority and we don't know who did, and so it's just kind of one of these, well, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
well, I mean, they went ahead and planted and whatever, I mean, but typically they don't pay until the end of the season anyways.
Sure.
So,
We clearly, in the purchase, the options that turned into a purchase agreement, we clearly stated we had no objection to, continuing the farming operations.
okay.
And Fred and I had a couple of conversations on that, and going forward, if we don't have plans to develop, say, next year by February, that ideally he would like to know by February, March,
Right.
if they can use it again.
And they would plant more, and
They-
do a little
yes.
bit more to help us
Sure.
with the,
That
And
was
I,
my original
and I
conversation.
indicated, based on our prior discussions, that once we own it, we're open to all consideration.
Mhm. Anything that we own within our rights and property, yeah, but
okay.
until then,
The acreage is finalized by way of the survey. It was, I think, using round numbers, about 189,000 based on the tax records. It's actually a little less than that, about 185, I think.
yeah, it's about 4.5 acres short of what is in the real
But
property tax
we're
service.
in agreement to that. So our cost per acreage obviously has gone down about $24,000. So once we have the title work, we'll then reach out. We'll put together a statement of sale. We'll reach out and get the checks authorized and signed, and we'll be the owners hopefully by the next meeting.
Can you adjourn a meeting without a quorum?
You can, if a member leaves and
Wait a minute, what else we got to vote on? I think we're done, are we?
Nothing when he's just asking about adjournment about.
as long as nobody calls the quorum,
You can adjourn the meeting
So
then.
are we technically still in a meeting until the next meeting then?
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the answer was before I got up.
yeah, it can be adjourned.
Yeah, but for all practical purposes.
Well,
The only thing we gotta do is set a
got
We
the
don't have a
portal
meeting.
thing. It's on.
We have number 9.
We're not doing it on the presentation,
Oh, we're not?
we're talking about it, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
technical issues.
before Barry leaves, because we are gonna talk about the portal quickly. Next meeting,
What about, somewhere around the July 27th? Or 29 or 30? Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Give us all the time with Novellas.
I'm not time constrained on Tuesday like I am on Thursday and Friday's my only fit works for everybody else.
Tuesday's good for me too.
27th.
Is it good for you, Kevin?
Yep.
Tim?
Not good for me, I'll say, but I'm critical about
Your plans in the direction. Len, is that good with you?
It
No.
should be.
Or if it's Thursday, we just get done at 11. This one just went a long time.
Could you start an hour early, maybe? Start at 8 o'clock on Thursday, and then,
I got Thursday, I'm good, I just got to call at 3 o'clock, so
Are we going to Thursday, the 29th?
if that
Kevin's
works.
gotta be here, right?
Well, I'm on tape. I mean, it's good for me.
Okay, Thursday,
It's
29th. At what time? We're gonna do it earlier?
8.
8?
Do it at 8 o'clock.
8 a.m., okay.
8 a.m.
I was off to
Okay. 7:29. Thursday. Okay, 8 o'clock on the Thursday, the 29th.
The only thing could change is if something changes with Novellas, we'll schedule an emergency meeting.
Okay, we have, what is it? The portal update.
Yep. We need a call to Evelyn, get her in here, so just take a second.
Could easily observe.
Yeah, I said more of the board was here for this update. That's,
Is it one thing if there's only 3 people, or what do you wanna do?
What?
I mean, we're just gonna give, I can give you guys a verbal update of where things are, and then at the next time, because I mean, there's some things that we can't show anyway, just because we don't have,
postponed it last time.
yeah, I know, we need to do it at some point here, so,
is there something you're waiting on action wise?
for this.
We're gonna bring in,
hold
on.
No.
Just a moment. Keep listening.
Is it live?
No.
It'll be live if we discuss it today.
It will not be live there's still a few steps to go.
We're still live right now in the meeting. We're
Yeah,
still streaming.
yeah, we're
live.
still streaming, yeah.
Evelyn, get it on?
Evelyn's on the phone. Morning, Evelyn.
Good morning. Everybody hear me?
Turn up the volume just a little bit.
Okay, Evelyn, who do you wanna have, start talking about this? How do you wanna?
Can I come up here?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Do you want me to go and then you can fill in, or do you wanna do, how do you wanna do that?
Or, I mean, it doesn't matter, either
Okay,
or, just
all right.
go ahead.
Sure, okay, so, if everyone remembers, this process was started, it was early last year, I think it was, January of 2020, was when the, project, I believe, it was either January 2020 or February, project was originally approved, $20,000, to develop a economic development portal, for Oswego County. Pretty shortly into that process, COVID happened, we sort of put the project on the back burner as we had to, work on some other initiatives. But we got back into the project probably, third quarter of 2020. Evelyn and I, as part of this, because we already have an economic development website, we tried to define how, firstly, how this portal would be different than our website. Because if it was going to be pretty much the same thing, then why develop a portal if you already have a website? So we had to define, did a lot of research on other economic development portals, what made them different, sort of what some best practices were, We looked at a lot of different websites. We found several that we liked, how they did it, what they did differently, what made them unique. And so we took that information in terms of layout, usability, user friendliness, because one of the criteria here is that, like I said, we already have an economic development website. Typically our website has all the information within it. It does have links out to other people to get stuff, but it's typically, we house the majority of the information on our website. The difference with this is to create a portal where it was going to be sending people out to other people's websites. It was going to be, we consider it shallow information. It's got a lot of different stuff, but it's shallow and it's sending people out to where they would need to be. So we were looking at it, and this is something that, let me step back a little bit. This was an initiative that was identified with the Economic Advancement Plan as an initiative for Oswego County to take. To develop an economic development portal, but that also worked with the other stakeholders and partners, be it the county, be it the municipalities, be it workforce development, and all the other sort of stakeholders. So we're developing a portal based on an economic advancement initiative that was developed, that was mentioned by a steering committee, which is made up of a group of people who were part of that, was Mike, Dave Turner, Pam Caracoli, and Gary, were you on there as well? I'm not sure if you were on that
I
group.
thought you were on that one.
No, you were on that, Gary.
So
No, I was not on that one. I was on the marketing one.
yeah. So that was something that was identified. So we're developing. So some of the complications is that we're developing something that's being paid for by the IDA and responding to the IDA from an initiative that was created by another steering committee. But then we also have to work collaboratively with stakeholders, which are another entire group. So there's sort of three different things going on here in terms of trying to make sure that this is something that meets the vision of a steering committee that's being paid for by an IDA that has to work with, 15 to 20 different stakeholders being like all these other groups. So a lot of moving parts and making sure. So part of what we're trying to do is we're working on getting back to where we are. We've developed what we think this should be. We've identified all of the information and the partners who should be in it. We've identified the gaps in information. So when something's on our website, we can kind of, if the information isn't out there, we can create what that is. The issue with this is that if there's not say for example, that there's a stakeholder in the economic development ecosystem that needs to be a part of this, and their website lacks information, is not up to date.
I think it's, yeah. If they're the logical person.
Yeah.
If they're the logical group to hold that information.
Yeah. So part of this process is also to work with stakeholders to identify gaps in information and to get them sort of up to date on their stuff. So there's some issues that we didn't know existed really, because we were just doing stuff based on our own website before, not knowing that some of these other places do not have some of the information that they would need. So
right.
So,
but I think it's important to note that that's why this project came about, because there was no one place to send everybody. If somebody was trying to attract talent or trying to bring new people into the area or a new business and there was just no one place. But in essence, we've also identified that even with the existing information with all the stakeholders, that we still have gaps.
Yep. So we've been working on that, like I said, pulling together what the information is, what this should look like, the template for what we're using. We've identified a template for what this is going to kind of put this information into. At this point, we need to have two separate meetings. We need to have a meeting with the stakeholders to bring where we're at this point in the process and secure input and buy-in on where we're at. And then we also need to have a meeting with the steering committee to ensure that the vision of where we're at this point also matches with theirs in terms of where they started. So part of this is us trying to take what an initiative is in the economic advancement plan and match that to what should be, what an actual economic development portal would be based on what's out there. So just wanna make sure that we're on the same page. To date, we have not actually, we've done all of the work we've done to date in-house in terms of, we haven't spent any of the $20,000 until we're sure that everything is correct with different groups. The funding is actually going to be utilized to do three things: purchase the website license and get it online. We have a list of assets that we want to create in terms of graphics, infographics, videos, interactive maps. We kind of know what information those need to have, but those need to be developed by a graphic designer. And then the other part of this, which wasn't really discussed as part of the initiative, but any sort of thing like this needs to have a campaign, a marketing campaign. You can create all this, and if it's just going to be put online but no one knows it exists, or if you're just trying to do things organically, it's not going to have the impact, especially outside of our area. So the other part of what we're looking to do with that funding is to develop a promotional campaign, search engine optimization, social media marketing, online ads that will direct people, specifically people outside of this area, to that. Now, in terms of
I think we found that some of the others that we were looking at did exactly that, and that's kind of how we, that was how we changed our perspective on this.
Yeah. So what we were planning on doing, and it's something we can always do privately as well. I just want to make sure that the different groups are okay with. I don't want to set this and say this is what it's going to be, and then if we do that, then the issue we have is that we pretty much already said what it's going to be without making sure that we have continued buy-in. But the categories of this is going to be based. It's going to be doing business in Oswego County, investing in Oswego County, live and work in Oswego County, and visiting Oswego County. And we've developed all of these sort of sub-pages off of this homepage. We've created all of this stuff. What we found is that
designed it anyway.
Designed it, yeah. Is that several of the categories, like visiting Oswego County, we can easily push that to visit Oswego County. That's just an existing asset that's there, and we don't have to do a lot with that. Some of the other ones though, like live and work in Oswego County, like pulling together stuff about all of the schools, pulling together stuff about all these, this doesn't exist. There's no like asset out there that has all this information. So we're having to create it from scratch, or we're having to try to convince someone who should be the one who has that information to house that. So
yeah, or if it does exist, it doesn't exist in an up-to-date form.
Right.
Like we found places that have some of the information, but it's outdated information. They may list more schools, but with some school closings, we don't have that anymore. So I mean, it's definitely dated information.
So like I said, when we first started this process, we thought that this is something where we would just be able to pull a lot of existing information, put it together. We find that a lot of it doesn't exist, a lot of it is incorrect, and a lot of it's outdated. And so, if it was just to be housed on our website, we could do that, but there's nowhere to send someone out to for that at this point.
Is there any way you can, like with schools and stuff like that, you can just do like schools and drop downs with the different school districts or college or?
Well, the college and those we can. The schools is a little bit different because what we're trying to do is we're trying to. Some of the things we didn't mention is we did this from the perspective of several different audiences. We're doing this from the perspective of a business that's already here, looking to expand. We're doing it from the perspective of a business that's looking to come to Oswego County. So the different kinds of information, we're looking at it. The things that we're adding that we don't really do now, or at least we don't do it directly, is to say if for talent attraction. One thing we found a lot of these sort of economic development portals have is you're trying to put all the information together that would be important for someone. So say if Novelis, for example, they're drawing people from all over the country, and somebody who lives in California, they have an opportunity to come to Oswego to work for Novelis. What kind of information do they want? That's obviously very much different than what we would have on an economic development website. It's going to be stuff about quality of life, it's gonna be things about housing, it's gonna be things about school districts. You know, how would that person who's in California sort of navigate that system and trying to figure out where they should be or what's important to them. So we're trying to answer and trying to create something that is, it's ambitious because it's something that's different than what we do now, but it's something that's sort of, this is what it lacks. We don't have something like this. We found some
Well,
things.
this is why we're relying on the stakeholders, though, because
Right.
you do have stakeholders. I mean, some of this goes to talent attraction. We're going to certainly connect them with workforce development and things like that. So, I mean, it does make sense. We're relying on the stakeholders, and this is where that piece comes in.
Yeah.
Still, it sounds like it's a huge effort.
Well, it has been so far, and like I said, I mean, we pulled together a lot of stuff. We just haven't made it live because there's so many things that still need to be figured out.
Yeah, and I mean, just to maintain it, I mean, just to, I mean,
Well,
who's
that's-
gonna be the owner of this?
That's why we want to push people out to other people's websites.
Sure.
So that,
Exactly.
right,
This is why we're relying on the stakeholders.
right.
Right, but someone's gotta be the owner, and someone's gotta have the responsibility to maintain some of this stuff
Well-
and look at some of this stuff.
That's us.
Yeah, that's us in terms of from making
That's
this
us.
website. However, like I said, the information that is in the links and into it's a homepage with 5 buttons and some content about the county. From there, you go to doing business, you go to living and working, you go to investing, you go to visiting, and then you go to about us. Okay, so from that one click to that one click.
I mean,
You're to wherever you need to be in 3 clicks. We're not keeping people on this website and going down a rabbit hole of just information. We don't want to have it that. We want to get people to where they need to be. And so the amount of information that
Right,
we need to maintain is
very-
minimal. It's just getting that information into getting the actual stakeholder to have that information and so really the stakeholder is going to be responsible for maintaining the information on their end, not us.
Well, like an
But
example,
this is why it's important to get their buy-in.
like when you were
And this
talking,
is why we need them as partners in this.
like when you were talking about the schools, I mean, who would be the stakeholder? I mean, each school district?
Each school district, City BOCES, Cuba Community College,
And-
SUNY Oswego.
So in other words, when you went to that, you would get a list of all the schools.
Yeah.
There
With
would
a,
almost
with
be-
a, with a link though to.
Right, it's not gonna just
to
be
the
a bunch of
city
information.
schools.
on
Yeah,
our
yeah,
website.
so that's, yeah, no, sure, yeah.
It's not just gonna be information on our
It'll,
website.
it'll have some general information, but not a lot.
Well, I'm not sure how much, you guys focused off of the group that Gary and Pam chaired that this came out of, right? The whole point of this kind of came out of that Center State
Mhm.
CEO group where one of the things that we said is, hey, there's lots of information out there. We don't want this just be a landing page to launch people. What we need is the follow-up. We need that accountability. Somebody hits our page,
Sure.
we don't just toss them.
Well-
They are ours now. We need to make
Right.
sure we know where they're going, that they've been contacted, that, the school district didn't just leave them.
That's the other part of this, is that we are also working on acquiring new CRM software at the moment, customer relation management software, which we would tie into this. We've gotten, I think we've landed on a finalist for this now in terms of who we're looking to use. And we would be able to, so one of the things that we need to kind of still figure out the details of how this would work is that, because you're right, like if you just send someone out, how do you know there's a follow-up? And if we are responsible for all of that in terms of everyone who's ever clicking through the school, I mean, that's not something we can do. But what we would be doing would be developing at the same time as customer relationship management software, which we could then see where people are clicking through to. The people on the other end, so they would have limited accessibility to the CRM. It would only be really specific to stuff that's them. We could see from our end if there's follow-up. We could see if someone had been contacted. We could see where people are clicking through to. We can then determine what's actually, what people are using this for the most, and then we can actually bulk up those areas, or we can find out the areas that aren't being used. We can then figure out why. Well, maybe it's just not very useful information, so it's not getting a lot of traction. So it's sort of it's a 2-part thing. You got to create the website, and then you have to have the CRM. We're kind of working on it at the same time. That's something that we still need to finalize that. It's something, the CRM is something we've actually been looking at longer than we've been looking at the website. But especially with the one we're working on with right now, the company we're working with right now, and I don't want to say it yet because it's not finalized. We could have unlimited users. So if we want to say we are going to be sort of the administrators of the CRM, and we can see everything, all right. But we want to set up the CDO as a limited accessibility user to see anything that's maybe within the city. If we could do that geographically, or if it's something that's workforce, only things that are workforce related, workforce would see it. So we can do all that, and we can do it within that contract we have for CRM. But that's where that usability comes in. It's not, the website itself would be difficult to, the website's how you get them there and whatever, but that doesn't necessarily make sure you have follow-up and stuff. So that's where the CRM comes in.
Is the CRM automated? Is it like artificial intelligence? Is it a dialogue, that pops up, can I help you? And then you type in
it's different.
keywords and it directs you somewhere?
No, it's different. It's something we would have to have connection in with the website. It's hard to describe how that part of it would
Well,
work.
basically, you would get a name, you would get who clicked on it and where they went and what they saw.
In a way, yes.
But it requires human interaction.
So anytime that there's somebody clicks through to go do something, it would create sort of a little file of this happened, and now there's a follow-up required, or there's a, whatever. And then the details of how it's going to work at this point, I don't know all the details. That's not what I do. I just know that we can do this with CRM software. And it's something that if we don't do that, then the follow-up for stuff that's not ours, would be difficult to determine how you do that.
Yeah, but if nothing more than to see where people are going, like you said, and what's being used, I mean, that's important just in itself.
Yeah, and that's something, you're not gonna get great information just about, you'll see where their IP address is and other things like that, but you're not gonna know exactly who it is. I might be wrong on that, Evelyn. If somebody clicks through our thing and we have,
It depends. I'll be honest with you, Austin. I'm not sure how this is how you're thinking this is going to be lashed up. I'm a little confused, but yeah, from the standpoint of the analytics, no, you're not going to get specific information on that user. You can do that kind of stuff in a CRM if you set it up a certain way, but I'm still not clear on how we would lash this together.
Yeah, I think that it's just when you click through to something, it would create a kind of like a box where you put in you need more information on something. It's something we gotta figure out.
Would it indicate a response to whoever's, like, you go to a certain job or business or whatever?
The issue that happens on this is depending on how far you want to get in, we need to have the buy-in of the stakeholders. If the stakeholders don't have buy-in, then we don't have the ability to make sure that there's follow-up.
So it could be limited.
It's as limited as the stakeholders make it. So that's something. That's why it's just. We have evolved in terms of, because we want to make sure that this has, it's used for what it's supposed to be used for. But if you just want it to be a website to know where people are going, we can't force follow-up from a school, or we can't enforce follow-up from the SBDC, or enforce follow-up from workforce development. We can only follow up what would come through us to our office specifically. So if that is a weakness, then what you need to do is determine how you can resolve some of that. And so that's.
But the only way that if everybody called our office, then we'd have to call the other office to get the information and follow up, because even if it was phone calls, if you called the stakeholder and said so and so needs information on this, could you please call them back with that information? There's no guarantee after you hang up the phone that person calls the person back. It's the same. It's the same thing. You can never guarantee the feedback.
So if I could, because again, the this is running a little long. It sounds like this is turning more into a brainstorming session about how we want this to look. Really, it was more just
And I did,
asking
yeah.
for an update. Sure. And maybe we can, set up. This is the first I've really heard in the almost 18 months since we've, set the monies up for this. It obviously came out of a very well attended, very actively promoted group that Gary and Pam oversaw. I don't know if Gary or Pam were included in any of the conversations you've had in the last 18 months about kind of direction and the stuff that came from that. I don't know if you got the minutes from those meetings, but ultimately it seems like there's quite a bit more we still need to do. Sure. Is that a fair statement?
There is, and like I said, I mean, I think that the further we got into it, where we saw that there were gaps in information, that there were, if we want this to actually do what it's going to do, that it needs to be more than just creating a website. It really does.
And I would think that, again, $20,000 set aside 18 months ago to attack this, I think everybody, at least I had expected it to be quite a bit more than just a website. I agree with you. Coming out of what we've been dealing with COVID, those linkages are more important than ever. And actually, it was highlighted a year and a half ago now when this whole thing hit that we don't have. We're losing everybody here. That we don't have those linkages that we need, right? Yeah. We got this big program coming up from the county in about 3 weeks that every restaurant in the county is going to be eligible for. We don't have a communication network to hit every restaurant in the county. We should. This office should. That should be something that exists. So those are the kind of things that I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to start making those agreements, make those linkages, go out there and say, hey, anyone who's interested, not that we're going to be a county chamber of commerce, but we should be able to blast out to every restaurant in the county, hey, awesome program coming up, love for you guys. I mean, we have the newsletter, right? And that's, but we don't have that kind of the other half of it where we said we made sure that they've received it. Anyone who's interested, you've received it.
Well, don't we have, Ellen, how's it set up with our website the way it is now? Because I get the emails and, grants, upstart funding, things that come out. Is the county tied into that?
You mean
too?
as far as from the newsletter?
Not just the newsletter, I'm talking about, emails, go to the website, look at, this or, funding opportunities, whatever.
Well, I do it in the e-news. That's the only emails that would go out are the actual emails.
Yeah.
It's e-news.
Yeah, the e-news generates an email, and you would know.
Is everybody part of that? I mean, is the county?
It's an opt-in.
Everybody?
It's an opt-in. You can't force somebody to get an email.
Right.
It's a distribution list that you opt into.
Okay.
Right. I mean, they can go out on our website and opt in, but again, you got to get them to the website first.
Okay.
I know it's what Tim's talking about. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to be the everything to everybody and know how to contact everybody at all times. I mean,
yeah, I guess that was the whole, 100,000-foot vision is being the one-stop. You look at this portal, look at whatever, and hopefully it points you in the right direction or gives you the resource that you need.
Well, that's, like I said, that's kind of where we started.
I'm not saying you're not doing it. I'm just saying that. Right. That's kind of the vision of the whole thing.
Sure. Like I said, and I think what we found as part of doing this is we already have an economic development website. If we're trying to create something, then that's going to pull in all these other things and do all these other things. There's infrastructure stuff that needs to be done that's not done, or there's things to get people to that information that aren't done, and they need to kind of either be created by the stakeholder or they need to be created by us. The issue with us is then that we're responsible then for updating and doing other people's information and things. Yeah.
Right, but we shouldn't be curating the information on workforce development. There is a website that does that, and there's a group that does that. So I mean, we don't need to duplicate effort.
Right. Yep. But yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of for example, sending something out to every restaurant. Would require an opt-in to that. Could be done. And you could do that across different industries as well. It would just be, you need some sort of a filter process to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if we done with CRM, if we done with internal database, I mean, there's ways to do it. The point is, we're not there.
Yeah, no, and the CRM actually, this has taken us a while. But I mean, I think we're pretty close on that in terms of getting that, and the thing I'm happy about that is from a accessibility and, like I said, we looked at other ones where we'd have license fees for each person to use it, which then would kind of make it difficult to try to include all the different people who should be using it. Where the one we're looking to use, we can have unlimited users, and we can limit the information that they can see based on whatever. I think that is something alone that we've just never had that ability to do that. So I'm almost a little, I don't know the potentials of that totally, just because we've never had something like that. I know how it could be used, but I don't know all of the ways it could be used.
Yeah, Austin, it's also important to note that, also this all has to go before the board, and
Correct.
this wouldn't even, if it gets accepted, it won't be fully accepted until at least September.
Mhm.
And then, of course, it's gotta be built out.
Yep. Yeah, it takes time on that, but like I said,
So,
it's a parallel path. You're working on both at the same time. When it's implemented and when it can be used is the difference. So, but like I said, I mean, it's for a long time. We were just trying to catch on COVID stuff. We were trying to, it's trying to do this.
I don't know.
Yeah. So.
Well, the worst part is it ends up being a start-stop process for us. You pick it up, you work on it for a little bit, but then you get pulled away for other things. It's, but we have made a lot of progress, and really the next step is to, take this to the advancement plan steering committee, and then out to the stakeholders.
Okay, good.
Okay, so, Evelyn, thank you. Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Tim,
You're
did you have
welcome.
any more, suggestions or comments or anything?
No, I do think we should probably have a work group or some sort of discussion group where we would do that. That makes a lot more sense. This would be, the board is more just a, I would think, an update piece.
Yep. Okay. Now this, got started. So, all right.
I'm glad that four of us in the room were able to hear it.
Okay. Thank you, Evelyn. So,
You're welcome.
I'm just declaring the meeting adjourned. So, Tim, you got a minute?
Oh, yeah.
Let me, we're still on tape.
Tim, what was I?
We're still on tape?